There was a time when you believed that love lived somewhere outside you, maybe in another person's eyes, in their approval, in their arms. You searched for it like sunlight, something to stand beneath, something to be chosen by. But after enough heartbreaks and silences, a quiet voice within began to whisper, "There must be another way." That whisper is the beginning of wisdom, because the love you are chasing cannot recognize you until you recognize yourself. You are not meant to beg for affection, to shrink for attention, or to prove your worth. You are meant to overflow with warmth until love can only find you because you have become its source. We are taught that love is something to earn. We measure our value by how much others give, how often they stay, how kindly they speak. Yet this is the nightmare that keeps hearts exhausted. You cannot receive what you secretly believe you do not deserve. Until you speak to yourself with kindness, every "I love you" from another will sound uncertain and fade. The relationship that sets the pattern for all others is the one you have with yourself. When you love yourself, you stop performing. You stop chasing people who treat you like an option. You stop mistaking chemistry for connection or attention for affection. You begin to radiate peace, and peace is magnetic. Perhaps you've spent years giving your best to others, healing, forgiving, showing up yet still feeling unseen. You wonder, when will it be my turn? Your turn begins the moment you stop waiting for someone else to give you what only you can give. That is the dream outcome, to love yourself so fully that rejection cannot diminish your light. Think about how much energy you've spent trying to make others love you. You adjust your tone, your body, your dreams, hoping to be chosen. But what if you redirected that same energy inward? What if you spent half as much time learning to adore yourself as you spend analyzing who didn't? Your whole vibration would change. Your mirror would become your ally instead of your judge. Your mornings would begin in peace instead of comparison. That is how healing looks, not as a miracle from outside, but as the quiet decision to treat yourself as sacred. When you bless yourself with acceptance, life begins to echo your gentleness. Maybe you fear that self-love is selfish, but the opposite is true. When your cup is full, love overflows naturally. When your heart is healed, your relationships become healthier. Loving yourself is not taking from others, it's teaching them how to treat you. It is the most generous act you can offer the world. If love has eluded you, it is not because you are unlovable, it is because you have been searching from emptiness. Empty energy attracts rescuers and lessons. Full energy attracts mirrors and equals. When you become your own friend and comfort, you stop asking others to save you. Then love arrives, balanced and free. Consider the risk of ignoring this truth. To keep chasing love without loving yourself first is to keep building homes on sand. Every rejection will shake you, every argument undo you. But when you ground yourself in self-respect, no storm can move you. You become the calm center in every connection. The beauty is you don't need years for this shift. The speed of transformation is instant the moment you turn inward. Say it softly, "I choose myself." Feel how your breath deepens, your shoulders ease, your heart expands. You are not closing yourself off, you are opening to love that matches your worth. And it doesn't require perfection, only honesty. You don't have to be flawless to deserve love, you have to be truthful. You have to remember that love is not earned by pain. Every time you offer yourself patience instead of punishment, compassion instead of criticism, you build a new emotional home. In time, your status in your own eyes changes. You no longer see yourself as waiting to be chosen. You realize you have always been the chooser. When others meet you now, they feel that peace. They listen because your silence carries confidence. They stay because your energy feels like home. Look at your timeline. In the past, you chased love because you feared being alone. In the present, you discover that solitude can be sacred. In the future, you will attract love not from need, but from fullness. Your relationships will mirror the tenderness you give yourself. Take a deep breath. Release the belief that you must earn love. Release the habit of begging for affection when you can bless yourself with it. You are not asking for too much. You have simply been asking the wrong person. You already hold what you seek within you. Whisper these words now. I love myself first. I am enough. I am deserving of gentle love, and it begins with me. Feel your heart respond. It has been waiting to hear this from you. No one can complete you because you were never incomplete. You are the whole awakening to itself. When you love yourself first, you don't stop loving others. You finally love them freely, without fear of loss. Love flows through you instead of from you. That is the miracle. That is the homecoming. Before you chase love, remember you are love. And when you live as love, life cannot help but love you back. When I was a little girl, I learned early that love had to be earned. Smiles came when I behaved. Silence came when I disappointed. I began to believe that approval was affection, that being praised was proof of worth. So I started to measure myself through others' eyes, polishing my behavior until I sparkled just enough to be seen. I did not yet know that the light I sought was already within me. For many of us, that lesson begins the same way. We are taught to please before we are taught to listen inward. We become experts at reading moods, anticipating needs, adjusting our colors to fit another sky. It seems innocent, only kindness, only care, but slowly the mirror of the self clouds over. We forget how to look at our own reflection without judgment. I remember the first time I truly looked into a mirror and felt the ache of disconnection. I did not see a living, breathing being. I saw a list of imperfections waiting to be corrected. The mirror became a judge, reflecting not my truth, but my thoughts about myself. Every sigh, every frown, every not enough carved itself into that image until I could hardly meet my own eyes. The mirror, dear one, does not lie, but it does repeat what we believe. If you stand before it with criticism, it will echo your disapproval. If you approach it with love, it will reflect warmth back to you. The glass does not decide your worth, it only magnifies your opinion. That is why the journey of self-love always begins not with changing your appearance, but with changing your inner conversation. Listen just for a moment to how you speak to yourself. The words may not always be loud, but they are constant. They shape the mood of your day more than any weather outside. When the voice within says, I can't, the body tightens. When it whispers, I am learning, the body softens. The tone of your thoughts becomes the atmosphere of your life. I used to think discipline meant scolding myself for every mistake. But scolding never made me kinder, it only deepened my fear. I discovered that correction wrapped in love changes far more than criticism wrapped in shame. The moment I began to speak to myself as I would to a dear friend, my whole energy shifted. The mirror softened. My face seemed lighter, though nothing physical had changed. Every relationship we attract mirrors the way we treat ourselves. When I disrespected my own needs, I met people who overlooked them. When I ignored my boundaries, I met those who crossed them. When I began to honor myself, I met those who honored me too. Life always reflects our inner tone. It listens not to our words, but to our vibration. This is why learning to love oneself is not arrogance, it is alignment with truth. Arrogance says, I am better than you. Self-love says, I am one with all of life. It recognizes divinity in the self and therefore in everyone. True love for oneself never competes or diminishes. It uplifts. When you see your own light, you automatically begin to notice it shining in others. If you wish to change the way love finds you, begin by changing the way you find yourself. Stand before your mirror each morning, not to critique, but to connect. Look gently into your eyes and say, "Good morning, dear one. I am learning to love you." It may feel awkward at first. The heart may resist. That is all right. Love, like any seed, must be watered daily before it blooms. In time, you will notice the tone of your thoughts changing. You will catch yourself mid-criticism and replace it with curiosity. You will feel tenderness where once there was impatience. This is how self-love grows, not through sudden revelation, but through the quiet repetition of kindness. The more gentle your inner world becomes, the more peaceful your outer world appears. So today, I invite you to become aware of your inner dialogue. Notice how you speak to yourself when you make a mistake, when you pass a mirror, when you rest. Each thought is a brushstroke painting the portrait of your self-perception. Begin to paint with compassion. You deserve to look upon yourself and feel warmth, not judgment. Because when you change the way you see yourself, love begins to see you differently too. It recognizes your softness, your serenity, your wholeness. You stop chasing affection and start attracting resonance. The world mirrors your self-approval, and relationships begin to bloom in the sunlight of your inner peace. There is a place deep within us where the feeling of not enough quietly began. It may have been a word spoken in anger, a look of disappointment, a moment when love was withheld. In that instant, the child within us drew a conclusion. I must have done something wrong to deserve this. From that belief, the wound of unworthiness was born. And for many years, it ruled our choices, our relationships, and our peace. Unworthiness is not a truth, it is a misunderstanding. It is something we learned from those who had also forgotten their worth. The words that hurt us were echoes of their own pain. When we begin to see this, compassion dawns and healing begins. We stop blaming others for our wounds and start tending to the small, frightened part of us that still longs to be seen as good enough. I know this wound well. For years, I carried shame like a second skin. No matter what I achieved, no matter who approved, the feeling remained. I would tell myself, when I am thinner, when I am more successful, when they finally love me, then I will be enough. But the finish line kept moving and peace never came. One day, in quiet despair, I realized that the problem was not my lack of worth, it was my lack of belief in it. That was the day I began to forgive myself. Forgiveness, I discovered, is not saying I did nothing wrong. It is saying I no longer choose to carry this burden of guilt. Guilt may have been handed to you by those who could not see your light, but it is not yours to keep. The moment you begin to release it, energy returns, and love can finally enter the places it once occupied. Self-hatred, I learned, is not the opposite of love. It is love that has lost its way. It is the same power twisted by misunderstanding. When we direct love inward again, even as a whisper, self-hatred begins to soften. That whisper might sound like, I did my best with the knowledge I had then, or I am willing to see myself through kinder eyes. The smallest seed of mercy can bloom into an entire garden of peace. We spend so much of our lives trying to earn what was already ours at birth. We chase approval, validation, belonging, forgetting that we were born worthy simply because we exist. No baby is born doubting its right to love. The doubt is taught, but what is learned can be unlearned. Awareness is the light that undoes the old pattern. Notice how guilt and comparison steal your joy. Notice how every time you tell yourself, I should be further along, your energy dims. Life does not demand perfection. It asks only participation. When you thank yourself for simply showing up, you begin to dissolve the illusion that you must earn your place. Gratitude is the medicine for the disease of unworthiness. There were moments in my own healing when I could not yet love myself, but I could be willing. That willingness was enough. I would place my hand over my heart and say, even though I do not feel lovable right now, I am willing to believe that I am. Slowly, the body began to relax, the mind began to quiet, and something softer, something holy began to rise. The feeling of not enough cannot survive in the presence of gratitude. Each time you bless yourself for trying, for enduring, for learning, you rewrite your story. You stop defining yourself by what went wrong and start celebrating what continues to go right. Your breath, your persistence, your ability to begin again. Forgiveness for oneself is the great turning point. When we forgive ourselves, we stop unconsciously seeking punishment through unkind relationships or self-sabotage. We no longer attract those who confirm our old wounds. Instead, we attract mirrors of gentleness. The outer world begins to reflect the mercy we have finally extended inward. Practice this truth each morning. I am worthy because I am alive. I am deserving because I exist. Say it not as a demand to the universe, but as a remembering. Life did not create you to suffer. It created you to express its beauty. Every moment you accept that beauty as your inheritance, you heal generations of forgetting. The wound of unworthiness may still whisper from time to time, but now you will recognize its voice. You will answer softly, "Thank you for your concern, but I am safe now. I no longer need your protection." Because that is all unworthiness ever was, a misguided attempt to protect us from disappointment. Gratitude turns that protector into a teacher and then into peace. When you begin to live from this truth, you no longer chase what is already within. You no longer ask others to prove what life has already declared, that you are lovable, capable, and divine. The need to impress fades, the desire to express remains, and your expression becomes pure, joyful, effortless. You do not need to become perfect to deserve love. You do not need to complete yourself. You are already whole. When you remember that, the heavy layers of guilt fall away. The heart, once armored, opens again, and as it opens, light pours through, illuminating everything you touch. So, my dear one, release the thought that you must earn what was never withheld. You are already deserving because you breathe, because you exist, because life itself chose you. Let that truth be the foundation upon which your new story is built. You are not broken. You are beloved. And the moment you begin to believe this, the wound of unworthiness will begin to heal, quietly, completely, beautifully. Love is not only something we feel, it is something we speak and something we practice. The way we speak to ourselves in the privacy of our thoughts shapes the very foundation of our being. The tone of that inner voice can be a blessing or a burden, a comfort or a wound. It is the constant companion of our days, the whisper that guides every choice. When we learn to make it gentle, our entire world begins to soften with it. For many years, my inner voice was sharp. It corrected, compared, and condemned. I believed that harshness would make me stronger, that if I kept myself under constant pressure, I would improve. But criticism never made me grow. It only made me smaller. I was watering the roots of fear and expecting the flowers of love to bloom. Love cannot grow in soil that has not been softened by kindness. The words we use toward ourselves are sacred. Each one carries energy, instruction, vibration. The mind listens, but so does the body. When we tell ourselves, "I can't," our shoulders drop. When we whisper, "I am learning," the breath deepens. When we say, "I am loved," the heart begins to open like a flower in sunlight. The body hears everything we think. It believes us completely. I remember when I first began teaching affirmations, People would tell me, Louise, I say them, but I don't believe them. And I would smile and say, that's all right, darling. You're not meant to believe them yet, you're meant to practice them. Repetition teaches the mind what the heart already knows. It takes time for the new words to overwrite the old patterns, but with patience, they always do. The mind is like a garden. Every thought is a seed. You cannot plant thorns of self-criticism and expect roses of joy. You must choose your words the way you would choose what to grow. Each kind sentence you speak to yourself is a new seed of peace, a promise to your heart that gentleness is now your home. Let me share with you the phrases that carried me from doubt to peace. They are simple, but they are powerful. I am enough. I am safe. I am loved. These words became the language my soul had been waiting to hear. At first they felt awkward, almost foreign. I would stand before my mirror, saying them softly through tears, until one morning I no longer felt resistance. I saw myself smile. I had begun to believe. Repetition is the teacher of truth. The more often you affirm something loving, the more the mind begins to accept it as reality. This is not pretending, it is remembering. You are reminding yourself of the truth that was buried under years of fear. Affirmations are not spells to change the world. They are bridges that bring your thoughts back to love. When I teach people about affirmations, I tell them this: do not rush. Do not demand that your words feel perfect. The power lies not in performance, but in sincerity. Speak to yourself as you would to a child, learning to walk, encouragingly, gently, with patience. Each time you fall back into an old pattern, simply smile and begin again. Love never punishes. It always welcomes. Every thought of self-kindness is a thread weaving safety into your nervous system. Each moment of self-approval tells your body it is safe to relax now. Over time, the body begins to trust you. The breath deepens. The heart beats easier. You begin to live not in tension, but in trust. This is what self-love feels like, not an idea, but a lived experience of peace. Love must be practiced in words, gestures, and self-respect. It is not enough to speak kindly while acting against yourself. True love shows itself through action, through resting when you are tired, through saying no when something feels wrong, through nourishing your body with care instead of neglect. Every loving act you offer yourself is an affirmation in motion. I once knew a woman who told me she could never speak kindly to herself. The words felt untrue. I asked her, could you speak kindly to your daughter? She said, yes, of course. I told her, borrow that tone. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love. That was the beginning of her healing. Within months, she noticed that her body was lighter, her face softer, her relationships calmer. The moment she changed her inner language, the outer world responded. Love is always teaching us through reflection. The world mirrors the way we speak to ourselves. When our inner tone is critical, we attract those who criticize. When our inner tone is compassionate, we meet those who understand. The universe speaks the language of our energy. It does not hear our complaints or our wishes. It hears the vibration of our thoughts. Let your words become a sanctuary. Begin each day with kindness. When you wake, place your hand over your heart and say, good morning, beloved. Today I choose to treat you with care. You do not have to feel it completely for it to work. You only need to mean it a little. Love will do the rest. Throughout your day, whenever you catch yourself in self-judgment, pause, take a breath, replace the old phrase with one that soothes. I'm such a failure becomes I am learning. I never do anything right becomes I am doing my best. You are not lying to yourself. You are guiding your mind toward truth. Every word you speak to yourself is a request to life. When you affirm love, life responds with love. When you affirm fear, it echoes fear. Choose your words as you would choose your company with care. Speak as though your thoughts are prayers, because they are. And remember, self-love is not arrogance. It does not boast. It does not compare. It does not shout. It is quiet assurance, a soft inner voice that says, I am at peace with who I am. That peace is magnetic. It draws kind people, gentle experiences, and loving opportunities into your orbit. As you continue this practice, you will notice a beautiful shift. The voice within that once scolded will begin to comfort. The mirror that once judged will begin to smile back. And the world in its faithful reflection will start to speak to you in the same tone of kindness you have finally learned to give yourself. So let this be your new language. Words that heal, words that soothe, words that remind you that love is already within you. Say them daily, softly, sincerely. And as you do, you will discover the miracle of self-love, that when the voice within becomes kind, the world begins to echo that kindness back. There was a time when being alone felt unbearable to me. Silence seemed to echo with old fears, fears of not being enough, of being forgotten, of disappearing without witness. I filled my days with noise and my nights with company, believing that the presence of others would protect me from the emptiness inside. But loneliness cannot be cured by crowds. It is not the absence of people, it is the absence of peace with oneself. In those restless years, I mistook solitude for punishment. I thought that if no one was near, I must have done something wrong. It took time and many tender lessons to realize that solitude was never life's way of abandoning me. It was life's invitation to come home. It was the sacred pause where I could finally hear what my heart had been trying to say all along. Solitude and loneliness are not the same. Loneliness feels hollow, as though something essential is missing. Solitude feels full, as though something sacred has arrived. Loneliness says, no one is here for me. Solitude whispers, I am here for myself. That is the shift that changes everything. When we are willing to sit quietly with ourselves, without distraction or escape, something miraculous happens. The endless noise of the mind begins to slow. The anxious grasping for approval fades. Beneath it all, we discover a presence, steady, loving, undemanding. That presence is our own soul. It has been waiting patiently beneath the surface of busyness, hoping we would stop long enough to listen. At first, solitude may feel uncomfortable. We are accustomed to measuring our worth by our usefulness to others. But in solitude, there is no one to perform for only the truth of who we are. This truth is gentle, but it asks for honesty. It invites us to remove every mask, every pretense, until what remains is our original light. Gratitude is the key that opens this space. When we begin to thank the quiet instead of fearing it, it transforms into peace. I remember when I began to spend evenings alone, not in loneliness, but in reflection. I would light a candle, take a few deep breaths, and simply say, thank you, life, for this moment with myself. Some nights tears would come, other nights calm. Gradually, I noticed that what once felt like emptiness now felt like presence. I was no longer waiting to be loved, I was practicing love. Solitude is the atmosphere where love matures. In the stillness, we learn to give ourselves what we once begged others for: attention, approval, care. We begin to see that love does not require another person to awaken. It requires awareness. When you become fully present with yourself, without judgment, you are loving yourself in the purest way possible. There is great beauty in making your own company sacred. You might create small rituals, brewing tea slowly, writing a note of gratitude, sitting quietly in nature. These are not acts of indulgence, they are acts of reverence. They say, my presence matters, my being is worthy of attention. Over time, solitude stops feeling like silence and begins to feel like music. The soul speaks only in stillness. Its voice is not loud. It is tender, patient, and wise. When we fill our lives with constant activity, we drown out that voice. But when we pause, when we breathe, listen, and open, we begin to hear its guidance. It tells us what we need to release, what we need to nurture, and what we are ready to become. This is the true gift of solitude, communion with your own spirit. When you stop running from yourself, you discover that you were never the enemy. You find the friend you have been seeking, the one who never leaves, never judges, never grows tired of your becoming. You begin to enjoy your own laughter, trust your own company, and feel safe in your own arms. This is what it means to be whole. There is a freedom that comes from no longer fearing your own presence. You stop filling every silence with chatter. You stop rushing to escape the quiet. You learn that rest is not wasted time, it is replenishment. Solitude becomes a sanctuary, not a sentence. It teaches you that peace is not given by others, it is cultivated within. I often tell people, if you do not enjoy your own company, how can you expect anyone else to? Loving solitude teaches others how to treat your energy. When you show that you honor your own peace, people who cannot respect it will drift away, and those who can will be drawn closer. Life always reorganizes itself around your level of self-respect. So take time each day to sit with yourself in gratitude. Place your hand on your heart and whisper, "I am enough, even here, even now." Feel the truth of those words. You may find that tears come, the tears of recognition, of returning home to yourself. Let them fall. They are the rain that nourishes new beginnings. Every moment spent honoring your own presence strengthens your capacity to love others freely. You no longer cling, demand, or beg. You share from abundance, not need. You give without losing yourself because you know how to refill your own cup. This is the beauty of solitude. It teaches you to love from fullness rather than emptiness. When you make peace with being alone, you no longer settle for company that disrupts your peace. You begin to attract relationships that reflect the calm and confidence you now embody. The love that comes to you will not be the kind that takes, it will be the kind that shares. For those who are at peace within themselves always meet in harmony. Let solitude be your teacher, your healer, your mirror. It will show you that love was never something to chase, it was something to remember. Every quiet evening, every gentle breath, every soft moment spent in your own company brings you closer to that remembrance. You are not alone in solitude. You are surrounded by life itself, by breath, by presence, by spirit. When you can feel that truth, even the quiet hum of the air becomes an embrace. You begin to realize that you were never unloved. You were simply learning how to love yourself. So sit quietly tonight. Breathe deeply. Whisper softly, "I am here for me." And feel how, in that one sentence, the whole universe breathes with you. When you love yourself in solitude, you carry that love everywhere. No matter who stays or goes, peace remains. And when peace becomes your companion, loneliness can never return. There was a time when I believed that love meant giving everything, my time, my energy, my peace. I thought that to prove I cared, I had to carry others' burdens, fix their problems, and abandon myself in the process. I did not yet know that overgiving is not love, it is fear wearing a kind face. True love never asks us to disappear. It asks us to remain whole and to give from that wholeness. So many of us were taught that love is sacrifice. We learn to equate devotion with depletion, to measure our worth by how much of ourselves we could give away. But a heart that is constantly empty cannot truly nurture. When we neglect our own needs for too long, resentment begins to grow where love once lived. Gratitude, not guilt, must be the foundation of giving. Love offered from fullness nourishes both giver and receiver. Loving others without losing yourself begins with understanding that boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges of clarity. A boundary says, this is where I can love you without harming me. It is not rejection, it is respect. When we learn to speak from truth instead of obligation, our love becomes cleaner, freer, stronger. I remember a time when I said yes to everyone who asked for help. I thought it made me kind. But soon I found myself exhausted, resentful, and silently blaming those I had tried to please. The truth was simple. I had abandoned myself. When I began to say no with honesty and yes with joy, everything changed. My love became a gift again, not a burden. Love is not meant to wound. It is meant to lift. When you love yourself, you stop trying to rescue others from lessons they are meant to learn. You offer compassion without control, support without self-erasure. You trust that life is guiding them just as it guides you. This is what it means to love without attachment, to bless without possessing. There is great peace in letting go of the idea that you must fix others. Each soul is walking its own sacred path. When you focus on your own growth, you become a living example of balance, and that example teaches more than any advice ever could. The most healing thing you can offer the world is your own wholeness. Gratitude deepens every connection. When you appreciate the people in your life for who they are, not what they provide, love becomes lighter. You begin to see them not as extensions of your need, but as mirrors of your growth. Even the difficult relationships become teachers. They show you where you still abandon yourself and where you have learned to stand firm. I often say that relationships are like gardens. They reflect how we tend to them, but also how we tend to ourselves. A relationship cannot thrive on neglect or control. It blooms through appreciation, clear communication, and respect for both spaces, the space of togetherness and the space of individuality. Loving without losing yourself means remembering that your energy is precious. It must be managed like light. You cannot give it all away and expect to shine. Before you pour love into another, ask yourself, am I giving from fullness or from emptiness? If you are tired, refill. If you are calm, give freely. When love flows from overflow, it heals. When it flows from depletion, it drains. There is no virtue in exhaustion. There is no holiness in self-neglect. To take care of yourself is not selfish, it is sacred responsibility. You cannot pour from an empty cup. The fullness you nurture within becomes the gift you share without. When you rest, when you listen inward, when you honor your limits, you are serving love itself. I have learned that people treat us according to the example we set. When we honor our needs, others begin to honor them too. When we tolerate disrespect, the world mirrors that tolerance. Every relationship teaches the same lesson in different forms, how much we value ourselves. The moment you decide that your peace is non-negotiable, love begins to reorganize itself around that truth. Even pain in relationships can be a blessing if met with awareness. The ones who trigger our deepest wounds are often the ones who reveal where healing is needed. Instead of asking, why did they hurt me? We can ask, what part of me accepted pain as love? Gratitude turns heartbreak into insight, resentment into wisdom. Love balanced with self-respect endures. It is not swayed by guilt nor weakened by distance. It allows freedom because it is rooted in trust. When two people who love themselves come together, they do not complete each other, they complement each other. They do not cling, they connect. They do not fear loss, they celebrate presence. If you find yourself giving more than feels right, pause. Place your hand on your heart and say, I choose to love without losing myself. Let those words remind you that real love does not require suffering. It requires sincerity. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to love yourself enough to step back when something feels wrong. Forgive yourself for the times you gave too much. You were not foolish, you were learning. Every experience of imbalance was preparing you for harmony. Every heartbreak was teaching you to keep your heart open but your boundaries firm. That is wisdom born from love. When you begin to honor yourself, you stop attracting lessons in disrespect. The world adjusts to your new vibration. People who once drained you lose interest, and those who match your peace appear naturally. Love begins to feel safe again because you have become its protector as well as its source. To love without losing yourself is to remember that you belong to life first. Every other connection flows from that relationship. When you are in harmony with yourself, you can walk through the world without fear of rejection or abandonment. You no longer chase love meet you where you are. Love is not meant to consume. It is meant to expand. It does not bind. It liberates. And when love flows from fullness, it ceases to wound and begins to heal. So bless those you have loved, bless those you are learning from, and bless yourself for every step you have taken to return to balance. You are not selfish for wanting peace, you are wise, because only a peaceful heart can truly give. Love others deeply, but love yourself first. When your heart is whole, your love becomes pure light. And that light will guide every relationship into harmony, effortlessly, beautifully, forever. There comes a moment, after all the searching and healing, when love is no longer something you reach for, it becomes who you are. The chase ends, the striving softens. The heart no longer asks, who will love me? Because it has remembered the deeper truth, I am love. In that moment, all confusion dissolves. Life becomes simple again, an endless flow of giving and receiving without fear. When I first began this journey, I thought self-love was a destination. I imagined that one day I would arrive there and never doubt myself again. But love is not a place, it is a presence. It moves through us when we allow it. It is not something we acquire through effort or affirmation. It is what remains when we stop believing we are unworthy of it. Love is not to be achieved, it is to be remembered. The more I practiced self-acceptance, the more I realized that love was not an emotion, it was a way of being. Every kind thought, every moment of forgiveness, every act of gratitude was a doorway into it. Love began to appear in everything, the quiet morning light, the rhythm of my breath, the faces of strangers. I understood then that I was surrounded by the very thing I had spent my life seeking. When you begin to live as love, you no longer see separation, you see unity. You recognize that everyone, even those who hurt you, is doing the best they can from their level of understanding. Judgment fades, replaced by compassion. You no longer need to defend your heart because you know it cannot be broken, only opened wider. To become love is to release the illusion of control. You no longer demand that life conform to your plans. You trust its timing. You no longer need every person to stay. You bless them as they come and as they go. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? But rather, what is this teaching me about love? This shift changes everything. Life ceases to feel like a test and begins to feel like a conversation with the divine. There is a peace that comes when you understand that nothing real can ever be lost. The love that flows through you is infinite. It does not depend on circumstances or approval. It is the breath of life itself, moving through your words, your actions, your eyes. You are not a seeker of love. You are an expression of it. When you live in that awareness, fear cannot stay for long. Let us take a moment together. Close your eyes. Take a deep, slow breath. As you inhale, imagine breathing in pure acceptance. As you exhale, release every thought that says you are not enough. Feel the soft warmth of your heart expanding. Now whisper gently, I am love, I am worthy, I am whole. Say it again until the words stop sounding like affirmations and start feeling like remembrance. Love is your natural state. Everything else is learned tension. When you drop the habit of self-judgment, love flows effortlessly. When you forgive, love flows. When you laugh, love flows. When you allow yourself to rest in peace without apology, love flows. The only thing that ever blocked it was the thought that you were separate from it. In my years of teaching, I have seen people transform simply by remembering this truth. A woman burdened by heartbreak began blessing her ex-partner with gratitude instead of anger. Within months, her bitterness dissolved into serenity. A man who spent years in self-hatred began each morning saying, "I love you, I forgive you." His health, relationships, and outlook all began to brighten. When we live as love, the body heals, the mind clears, and life aligns. Love is not fragile, it is eternal. It is the force that spins the planets and heals the wounds of time. When you live in love, you live in harmony with that great order. You move with grace instead of struggle, with purpose instead of pressure. Even challenges become easier to bear because you no longer face them alone. You face them with the strength of the entire universe flowing through you. To live as love is to let go of the need to be right, to win, to possess. It is to value peace over pride, compassion over control. Love listens before it speaks, understands before it judges, and blesses even when it disagrees. Love is not weakness, it is wisdom in motion. When you live from this space, even the smallest gesture becomes sacred. A smile, a kind word, a patient breath. There is a quiet radiance that begins to emanate from those who know they are loved. People feel safe around them because they no longer project fear or demand. Animals trust them, children are drawn to them, and life itself begins to cooperate with their calm. This is not magic, it is alignment. Love is the highest vibration of order in the universe, and when you become it, everything harmonizes. Do not be surprised if this state feels unfamiliar at first. For years, you have been trained to believe that love must come from outside. But with practice, the inner light grows stronger. You begin to crave peace more than drama, truth more than attention, simplicity more than validation. These are signs that love is reclaiming its rightful place within you. Soon, you will find that your relationships begin to change not through effort, but through energy. The ones who align with your peace will stay, and those who do not will drift gently away. There will be no bitterness, only understanding. You will wish them well, for you will know that their path is also love seeking to know itself in another form. Becoming love does not mean becoming passive. It means living so consciously that every act is infused with awareness. You speak with care, not because you fear conflict, but because you honor connection. You move with intention, not because you must prove your worth, but because every motion is a celebration of life's beauty. Love becomes your language, your expression, your state of being. When you live this way, you will notice miracles. The right people appear, the right opportunities unfold, the right words come at the right time. You no longer have to chase life, it flows to you effortlessly. Because when you embody love, you become a magnet for everything that matches it. Remember, my dear, love is not outside waiting to be found. It is within you, waiting to be remembered. Every breath is an affirmation of that truth. When you say, "I love myself first," you are not closing your heart. You are opening the gate through which all true love enters. So as we close this journey together, take one more breath. Feel the life within you, the warmth, the pulse, the light. Whisper softly, "I am love, I am worthy, I am whole." Let those words settle deep into your soul. They are not hopes, they are truths. Before you chase love, remember you are its source. You are the well from which it flows, the candle that lights every heart you meet. When you live as love, life cannot help but love you back. And that, dear one, is the greatest homecoming of all.